So, I'd like to welcome to our Insider NJ interview series on the May nonpartisan elections, Shawn McCray. And thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thanks for having me, Max. I really appreciate it.
Well, I love having you here. And just to get started, would like to ask a little bit about why you decided to get in the race, why you're running for the Central Ward Council seat.
Well, as you know, this is my this is my third time running for Central Ward Councilman. I'm a product of the Central Ward. I grew up in the Central Ward. I've been in the Central Ward probably 44 of my 55 years, and the only time I left the Central Ward is the projects that I grew up in. They were demolishing them, the Hayes Home projects, and I grew up in Housing Authority, and they moved us on Chadwick and Clinton Avenue, which is the South Ward. And that's the only time I left the Central Ward, when my mom was relocated to that area of Newark. But years later, my sister bought a home in the Central Ward, and we moved back to the Central Ward.
Now, you're a basketball coach, is that correct?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I want to do interviews, to make people more aware that I'm more than just a basketball coach. I've seen a few publications, and it says, who's the current council person, and then it says the challenger, Shawn McCray, Central High School basketball coach. And I am a coach, and I've been coaching all my life, but it kind of doesn't really say who I am. I've been working at Central High School. Right now, I'm an attendance counselor at Central High School. So I do attendance, and I am the basketball coach part-time. That's only 4 months out the year. So it seems like when you read it that I'm the basketball coach all year round, and that's all I do. So that's not the only thing I do here at Central High School.
Well, maybe we can correct the misperception a little bit. So what else are you working on? And what else do you think is relevant information about your work that you want voters to know about?
Well, I'm a college graduate. I attended St. Benedict's Prep for 3 years. A lot of people don't know that. I received an academic scholarship coming out of grammar school to go to St. Benedict's Prep. I transferred my senior year, and I ended up at Central High School. I finished my high school career at Central, and then I went off to college. I went to Keystone Junior College up in Pennsylvania, and then I graduated from Caldwell University with my sociology degree, as well as a minor in criminal justice. So I have a wide range of knowledge in the community. I actually worked for Essex County Mental Health for 8 years before I came to Central. So I have experience working with the mentally ill population. I was a case manager for adults with mental illness, 18 and up. I linked them to different services that was available to them. I watched them take medication. I saw people at their worst stages when they were mentally ill, and at their best stages when they were, taking their medication on a consistent basis. So I've worked in the community with youth. I've organized various amounts of programs, not even basketball related, but we've added other things under the umbrella of the basketball program that I run outside of Central. So we've been doing a lot of different things in the community. And me, myself, I'm in touch with the community. And I think that's one of the things that's missing. I'm not against development, because the world is growing, so we have to have development. And I know the Central Ward is one of the major parts of Newark, New Jersey, major parts of New Jersey. The Central Ward is a very important ward in this city and in the state, excuse me. But I just think the community is not being serviced the way it should be. I don't think there's been someone in City Hall who has bridged that gap between the actual community and City Hall. And a lot of people, and you can attest to this, you're into politics, the voter turnout is always low compared to the amount of people that are registered to vote here in the Central Ward. And I think people give up, because when I was younger, I was one of those people. When people came around to to get the young people to vote. When I was younger, I didn't believe in the political system because I felt as though, politicians didn't really care about the community. I always thought it was, to better themselves or to a stepping stone to go somewhere else. So I think I'm a valuable asset in the Central Ward, being that I've worked with the youth who are actually now becoming a bigger problem, but a lot of people want to address. Our youth, especially after COVID, have changed, and I've seen the change because I've worked with kids for the past 30 years, and those kids that I've worked with, they're adults now. So, I have a good place in the community, man. I just think that I would be good, being the Central Ward councilman. It's a lot of things that I have to learn because I don't know everything about politics, and that's where it comes with, each council person gets 5 A's, if I'm not mistaken. And that's when I'll surround myself with people that understand, the political part, and then I'll learn, as I go. But the community part, that's my stronghold. So
Coach, a lot of questions coming out of what you're telling me. And just going back to your first point about the projects that you grew up in getting demolished, and I'm sure there was a history there, and now much more development incoming. In fact, as an outsider to Newark and an outsider to the Central Ward, when I think of the Central Ward, I think about development, and I think about development projects. And I suppose what gets lost is how these development projects impact the community and people who are actually there and have histories and lives, and how, for example, a commenter under another Central Ward interview with the incumbent pointed out that the James Street Commons is now an endangered area. And so to what extent, I want to get into the youth, and you mentioned how COVID has changed children, and I really want you to talk about that. But if we could start with how perhaps the development that's ongoing in the Central Ward maybe is not impacting the community in an altogether positive way, or maybe doesn't have enough input from the community. Could you talk a little bit about that, sir?
Well, I myself have said the same thing about the development. I mean, as I ride through the Central Ward, I see a lot of development. I see a lot of housing being built. They say it's affordable housing, but when you say affordable, I mean, the Central Ward has a lot of low-income families in the Central Ward, and when you say affordable, a lot of those people that's living in the Central Ward really can't afford, the rent that they're asking for some of these developments. I mean, development is great. Like I said, it builds up the community, but are the people really being, like you just said, do they have an input? Because I'm into sports, recreation, and things like that, and I watch some of these parks being built in the Central Ward, and I always go in the park and I say to myself, why they didn't put this here? Why they didn't build this? And I've been running. Oh, sorry about that.
Coach Ingram, if you're in the building, please.
Sounds like you're in a recreational kind of.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's quite all right. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Some of the things, I run a league here in the Central Ward, and I've been running it for 25 years at Hank Aaron Sports Complex on Springfield Avenue. And some of the things they redid the park. And like I said, I've been in that park for 25 years, and no one came to me and said, you use this park every summer. What do you think we should have here? I mean, you're going to put what you're going to put, but maybe it's some things that may be needed that you guys don't know about. So it's a lot of development being done, and people feel left out because they're not being asked. Some of the district leaders, people of importance in the Central Ward, the residents in the areas that they're building, they feel as though there's no one's reaching out to them to tell them what's actually being built. Some of the residents say they have to ask the actual workers, well, what are you guys putting here? So if I live somewhere and a development is going up and I don't even know what's being built right next to where I live, I feel as though that's a problem. That's a communication problem between City Hall and the residents.
But
And
when you mention that why is this being built here in a park, for example, is it a matter of fewer recreation opportunities for kids, not as many basketball courts or playing courts? Do you get the sense that there's some kind of conscious effort to minimize activity programs for children?
yeah, I mean, I believe that. I mean, because from about 25, 30 years ago, there were programs all over the place in the city of Newark. Now the programs are minimized, but people say there are programs, but I mean, I don't see them. I mean, the programs that was around when I was younger and when I started, coaching kids and basketball and being more involved in the community, it's not there anymore. And then some of these places that you build, it's on, like even with John F. Kennedy Recreation Center, which is in the heart of the Central Ward in Newark that they're redoing right now. That's one rec center servicing a community of thousands of kids. There's no way one rec center can service that many kids, and the Central Ward is big. And if I don't have transportation to get my kid to these rec centers, where do they go for the transportation? It's not like they're bringing buses into the community and say, look, we have this event going on at this location. Come on, sign your kid up and we're going to pick them up and bring them to the location. So I think recreation is definitely underserviced in the Central Ward, in the city of Newark as a whole, but in the Central Ward as well.
You mentioned that our kids are changing as a consequence of the behaviors around COVID.
Right.
And you put COVID together with the phones that they're all on, and it seems to me to be probably an extraordinary challenge to recreation in the conventional sense, the recreation that we grew up with, playing outside. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Well, the playing outside, we had to go outside. When I was a kid, if you came in the house, mom said, you come, keep running in and out of this house, you're going to stay in. Staying in the house was punishment when I was growing up.
Right.
Now, the kids have so many other things to occupy them, they don't mind being in the house. So, and then with the violence in certain neighborhoods and at certain playgrounds, the parents don't want their kids outside. So that plays a major issue as well. And I think with COVID, it kind of made our kids, it kind of made them lazy in a sense. They don't want to do anything because they've been in the house all day. It wasn't any discipline. If mom's working 2 jobs, if dad's not home, the kid is pretty much home all day alone, and you're asking them to do things that they really probably don't want to do as far as logging on, doing schoolwork. Some kids took that as a time where I could lay home all day and just hang out. I've seen kids with A and B averages straight F's because they missed being in school. So being at home, for the kids that were doing well, I think it kind of hurt them because they missed the socialization part of school, interacting with their friends, being around teachers, just having guidance. I think a lot of that was left out when these kids sat home for COVID. And I don't think there was a plan by anyone to interact kids back into I don't want to say civilization, but back into the socialization and just being around other kids and adults. Right now, a lot of kids that I see working in the school system, juniors and seniors, they've gotten jobs. So now it's like the job is more prevalent than the education because they've been making money for a year and a half. And now it's like, you want me to go to school, and now I was just making money at this job, and it kind of made them lose direction of where they should be going. And now we have to redirect them, but it's kind of hard because it's been 2 years. So it's going to take a while to get these kids back on track. And I always say that the kids that will probably get back on track are the ones that's in elementary and grammar school, because the high school kids have pretty much lost, that sense of community, that sense of relationships with teachers and students. I just think we lost that during COVID, and we didn't bring that back as far as like getting the kids back acclimated to be back around each other, because I see a lot of discipline issues, a lot of disrespect, and I think that's just from being home and not socializing with people, that you lost that sense of touch of being around other people.
Coach, do you feel, I realize that it's easier to work with the younger kids now, but those high schoolers through this crisis, what are some of the things that we can do to maybe minimize the damage at this point?
Well, I think, like I said, I think the kids that are like juniors and seniors now, the seniors, well, they're done in 3 months. You know, they're about to go into the real world. They missed out on 2 years of that development, because working in a high school, what I do see as freshmen, you know, they're trying to find their identity, because they just coming out of grammar school. They probably were the popular kids. Now they're coming into high school, and you have to start all over again, because the popular kids are really the juniors and seniors. Nobody really cares about the freshmen. So I think they missed that development. These juniors now, when they were freshmen, that's when COVID hit. And when these seniors, no one did a full 4 years of high school. So I think kids mature every grade level. You know, when I used to substitute, freshmen and sophomores was the hardest class to substitute, because they had so much energy. Juniors and seniors, it's a little bit more easier. They're more reserved. They understand they're becoming adults now. They're not silly like the other kids. And I think a lot of the kids missed out on that development from freshman to senior year, when we had to shut down because of COVID. I'm not sure what it's going to take to bring it back, but we have to have some programs for these kids that don't go to college, you know, because a lot of these kids graduate high school and they don't have a plan. You know, college is a plan. You're going to do something. If you're going to go on the work field, you know, you're not going to get that good paying job right out of high school. But if you have a plan to do something, it'll probably work for you. But a lot of these kids don't have a plan. And I don't think we push them. We push kids to college, but college is not for everybody. And I just think the community has to come together to accept these kids into the community, because they're going to be in the community, and then that's when the cycle starts all over again, with the kids committing the crimes, and because they have nothing to do, it's idle time. And I think programs are really needed, especially now. I think we don't have adults that really care for the kids like they did when I was growing up. Like, if someone ran a program, they knew what they were doing. They had control of the kids that came into that program. Now everything is about a dollar. Like, we all need to eat, you know, take care of our families and things like that. But I think we're missing the part where we understand the population that we're dealing with. A lot of people don't understand the population.
What about labor apprenticeship opportunities? Do you see that at all as sort of an alternative to college labor?
What, like you mean like the programs that they have at the technical schools, as far as like
that,
mechanic,
or opportunities through the actual labor locals, carpenters, electrical workers, laborers, right, the building trades?
Yeah, that's important, and those jobs, with all the development going on in the city of Newark,
right,
you shouldn't have a problem finding a job in that field. But yeah, we have to have those programs that they can learn. I mean, I'm not a laborer or a carpenter or anything, so I don't know how long it takes to actually get the necessary paperwork to actually go do those jobs. But I'm sure it's just like a kid is going to college. It takes 4 years to get your degree, or 2 if you go to a junior college. But I'm sure those trades are far less, time consuming as it is going to college, getting your degree. And some kids are great with their hands. Some kids like to build, but we don't have those programs in the public school sector that can teach these kids those different trades. But it has to be something created once they graduate to maybe direct them that way, because it's money being made in those fields, and people are working long-term jobs and retiring from that type of work. And with the way the economy is now and all the construction going on, it's always work in that field.
Coach, you mentioned your own days coming up, and in what way was sports and recreation a kind of salvation for you?
It was a salvation. I grew up in a community where it was always kids outside, so we always had something to do. We played all sports, volleyball, kickball with the girls. I mean, if it was an athletic sport, we played it. And I didn't play organized sport until I was in the 7th grade, and that was the first time I had a male figure in my life. And I was 12, 13 years old at that time and never had a male figure or someone to look up to. You know, my mom raised me, and just to have that male figure, and then other male figures that were, hanging around with the guy that was coaching me, Mr. Paul McPleasant at the time, and Mr. Smith when I went to St. Rocco's. And I just think a coach is very important, and because even when I went to high school, when I got to Central, my high school coach drove me to my college visit. And where I grew up, nobody went to college, and my coach told me basketball you can learn through basketball. Don't never let basketball use you use it. So I used it to go to college, because if I didn't play basketball, I probably wouldn't have went to college. And I got my degree from, going to college playing basketball. So my coaches were like very important in my life. So I kind of piggyback off a lot of what they were doing. And when I came back into the community, I started my own program. But actually, I started coaching when I was in high school at 16. But my coaches made me want to give back to my community because I saw how important they were for me. So I thought that it would just be right to give back to the kids in my community, because you need that guidance, man. Like I said, at 12, 13 years old, my coach was the first male figure in my life, and it helped. It helped me because I listened from a male's perspective. I always had to listen to my mom, but it's different when a guy, someone puts a little fear in you and tries to steer you in the right direction.
Puts the finger in your chest, backs you against the wall. Yeah. We need that.
So a lot of people don't understand what a coach does, man. Coach changes lives, man. Coach deals with the kid and he deals with the family. And when something happens with the kid, the coach is the first one called, because when the kid goes home, he talks about his coach and the things he's been doing. And the parents listen to that and they understand that the coach really has an impact on my child. So if something goes wrong, the first person I'm calling is the coach. And most of the time the kids listen when you call them, and you got to give them that talk.
Yeah. Coach, so I'm putting this together. Am I hearing that if you were elected, you would want to reevaluate how development occurs in the Central Ward with a lot more community input? You'd like to make sure that there's a lot more recreational opportunity with the new development that occurs, that it doesn't just obliterate the traditions of real recreation for young people. Right. And then also, is it fair to say that you'd want to see more support from the city in terms of the recreation program, maybe adjusting to these very difficult times that we're in? Is that a fair way to put it?
That's a fair way to put it, but also with the young adults, I think the young adults are not being serviced as well. You have that youth between 12 to 18, and then you have those young adults between 18 and 25 who's still trying to find themselves. And when they get in the community, it's really nobody really guiding them where they need to go. And then that's where that school to prison pipeline comes in, because now our kids have come through the educational system and then they're put back in the community. And like I said, if they don't go to college or they don't go do a trade, now what? What's left for those kids that didn't go to college or didn't receive that trade? What's left for those kids that are diagnosed with a IEP, considered, they have mental mental problems in school. We have kids like that, and then they have an aide for 4 years, or since they were younger. They had someone follow them around, and now they graduate and they're just sent out in the community. There's nobody holding their hand anymore. What services are we offering these kids? So that's one of the things that, one of my plans is to, because there's a lot of schools in the Central Ward. There's a lot of high schools in the Central Ward. And I just want to build a connection I'm already at Central, and, I just want to build a connection with the surrounding high schools, the surrounding elementaries, and come up with some type of plan that we can put together, for these kids. This money's allocated for kids. And if we get the right people on board, and that's just something for the future, not right now, but if we can get the right people on board that want to help these kids once they get out of high school, that's not going to college, that don't have that trade, that actually need their hand being held when they walk out this door, because there's some of the kids that's out here that's creating some of these problems because we kind of let them go. Yeah. So it's more, I'm with the youth and recreation, but also these kids are becoming adults as well. So that the young adults, I have a strong passion for as well, because I've coached kids who've grown up, ended up in the jail system, ended up murdered, ended up killing someone. And, it hurts your heart because you knew these kids before they became that animal that they call them in the community. You knew the other side of these kids. So it's a whole lot of things that needs to be done. And like I said, development is great. I have no problem with development. We're in the Central Ward with development. It's going to be heavy because of the area where it's located, but we have to think outside of that. Mm-hmm. That's all great, but let's get into the community so some of these kids and young adults, when they grow up, they can come in and work in some of these places that they're building, or even own their own businesses. Like it's a lot of work that needs to be done. And that's just one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is the youth, because they become the adults, they become the next leaders. So those are the kids that we got to channel in the right direction. I love my seniors as well, but sometimes the seniors, they're at an age where they just want to live life and not, if I work 25, 30 years, I want to rest. I want to be able to come outside and sit in front of my home or the complex I live in and enjoy life, man. I'm for the seniors too, because the seniors need things to do as well. But my passion is with the young people.
You want to make sure there are correspondences, real human correspondences, and transitional opportunities and options for young people coming out of high school who don't suddenly find themselves just up against a corporate wall with nothing there that actually continues to nurture them at a critical time. Right. Can you tell me a little bit about the Zoo Crew and coming and sort of creating programs on your own? Is that how you initially did this? You sort of answered a need, and then you found your way into the high school as a coach. Is that a fair way to put it?
That's a great way to put it. It actually, like I said, when they closed the projects I was living in, which is actually directly across from the new Central High School, is where I grew up, right across the street. And they moved us on Chadwick Avenue. And in 1990, I started coaching kids. I started the Zoo Crew program in 96. I started with kids in that area of Clinton Avenue and Chadwick, because I noticed that there was nothing going on in that area. There was no rec facility in that area. The closest, I want to say, rec facility was the Boys and Girls Club, which is located on the bottom of Avon Avenue, but that was still a stretch for kids that don't have transportation. So I started the program in 96 because there was no recreation in the area, and basketball was my thing. I came out of college in 90, and I saw kids just around doing nothing. So Brown Academy is crazy because they're building a police academy right there now on Bergen Street and West Bigelow. That's where I started practicing in that playground, on Saturday mornings with the kids, and it just branched out. We started with kids from the neighborhood, and then the word started spreading around. Started getting kids from different parts of the city, and we never really had a gym. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Cleo Hill, who just recently passed away. I think they're going to name Essex County gym after him, from what I hear. He was working at which is Newark Vocational right now, and he invited me in on Friday nights to use the gym. I could practice there from 6 to 9, and I used to have about 50, 60 kids in there practicing. So from then we started summer basketball camp, summer league. We traveled outside of the state. You know, we took kids outside to play in AAU tournaments to get seen by college coaches because there was nothing really going on here in the city. And we just branched out and did a lot of things. We took young ladies, you know, we started at 5 years old. We took little kids all the way up until high school age seniors. And it worked well, man. I didn't receive any funding in the early stages. The kids were selling candy on McCarter Highway. That's how we would raise money to go on trips. I would reach out to local politicians. At the time, only Sharp James was very receptive when he was the mayor. He made donations. You know, if I sent proposals down to City Hall, but most of the time it was just blood, sweat, and tears, man. It was no money being given, and sometimes, you know, I went broke trying to make sure that the program stayed afloat. You know, I passed on a couple of bills so we could get something done. And it worked. I mean, it's still going on. I haven't actually done the little kids since COVID, February 2020. I haven't done anything since then, an actual program, but I started the summer league back up last year down on Springfield Avenue. But my actual program with the kids, it's been 2 years now. So hopefully I can start it back up in September. But yeah, we did a lot of things. We serviced, man, that summer league I have, we service thousands of kids every summer. And it's not even just Newark. We have teams coming from all over New Jersey, coming, sitting right on Springfield Avenue. I mean, from the suburbs to the rural areas to the cities. They come and they sit out on Springfield Avenue and watch their kids compete against great competition.
Well, I'd like to be around this summer to take a look at that.
Yeah, it's real nice. I mean, we've had some. Kyrie Irving played in the league when he was in the 8th grade.
Really?
Karl Anthony Towns. So we've had some NBA players that have played in the league. That's, you know, in NBA now, and I got to see him before the world got to see him.
Amazing. So, he had a great night the other night. 50 points.
Yeah. I'll be glad when they let him play at home, but you know, that's another story.
Well, getting to the campaign, Mayor Baraka comes out of the educational culture of Newark. Maybe you knew each other in your educational careers, or you crossed paths. Also, Pat Council, running for the South Ward seat, is head of the recreation program in the city. What is your thought about them and their service in your areas at City Hall? Do you see partnership opportunities, or do you see yourself in a different direction from what they've offered Newark?
Well, I mean, I'm willing to work with anybody as long as we all have the same goal. You know, if I don't, and I have a good feeling about people. You know, if I don't believe, you know, we're on the same page or we're headed in the same direction, I will, you know, do what I think is best for my community. You know, I mean, I know I have to work with the council, which is not a problem. I know some of the council members, you know, outside of the politics. So, I mean, I have no problem working with anybody as long as it's the same, you know, we're on the same path. You know, we have to be on the same path because I love the people, man. I'm from the people. I am the people. I just love the people, and I just think the people don't get the whole 100% that they should get, and that's where I want to come in at and be that gap between, like I said earlier, the community and City Hall. But I mean, I've never been reached out to, you know, as far as like help. Well, no, I can't say that because I did coach youth games. United States Youth Games where they went to Alabama. I want to say that was in 2018, 16, somewhere around there. I went to Alabama, so someone did reach out to me to coach the team. But as far as like programs, no one's reached out to me to, you know, be a part of recreation in the city of Newark, and I don't have a problem with that. And like I said, maybe we're not on the same path and we just not thinking the same way, but I think I have a lot to offer in recreation, mental health, community. I think I can do a lot of different things. I'm not just a coach, and when I see that, it kind of like, yeah, it makes me think like I have to show people that I can do more than coach, and coaching, you have to be able to strategize, especially if you're successful. You got to be able to break down your opponents and get your kids to believe that they can win games and do certain things and be respectful and show discipline. Like, it's a lot of things that come with coaching. So I kind of get a little upset sometimes when I see that, but I know what coaching does, and I know what I've done to a lot of young men and women in this city and outside this city.
You have a word on the wall back there, respect, and that's the word that I associate with the title, because I'm one of those guys that required a coach to get tough, and so right. I have a lot of respect for people who coach. It's a really tough job,
and with a little bit of pay.
I also understand, however, that when you have a broad range of skills, that you want to highlight those too. So we'll make sure to do that. And do you have any sense of? I do hear that there's a disconnect in your judgment between the community and City Hall. The
right.
councilwoman prides herself on being very accessible and very visible. You don't see that.
I mean, I haven't seen it. I mean, I work in the Central Ward. I have a business in the Central Ward. I live in the Central Ward. I haven't seen it in the areas that I frequent or that I'm in. I don't see it. I mean, she could be doing it. I don't know, but I haven't physically seen any work being done in the community. I mean, I see photos and different things going on, but I believe the whole Central Ward should be serviced, not just certain areas of the Central Ward. We have to service all of the people that's in the Central Ward, and I think that's what I'm good at. I'm in the community all year, every year now, so being a council person, servicing the people is one of the best things that I can do, that I can do, and I just believe that I can do that 100%. I mean, everybody's not going to like you, which I know, there's always going to be somebody that's saying you're not helping this side, you're not helping these people. But those are the people I want to talk to. Like, because if I can come have a conversation with you and understand what your needs are, and if I can complete the task, because your need might be something that a council person might not be able to do. So we have to understand each other. And I think that's where I come in at, because I'm a community person. I'm hands-on. I'm accessible. I'm not hard to find. And if I get in City Hall, I'm still going to be in the community. So you don't have to come down there to see me. I'll come out and see you because I'm already out here.
You're not running on the Baraka team again.
No.
Right. And so,
no.
but that's a pretty tall order to go against them now. That said, this is a two-person race.
Right.
You've not been in that position before. There's always been a person sort of who's been defined as the main opponent, whether it was Gail. Well, it was Gail Cheneyfield Jenkins, or going back farther, really, it was Charles Bell versus Darren Sharif.
Right.
And then it was
Darren
right.
and
Gail. So
right.
Could you tell me a little bit about how the dynamic of this particular contest maybe has changed to your advantage as you look at the tough task of running against the Baraka team?
Well, I mean, in 2014, there was a runoff between Darren Sharif and Gail Cheneyfield. Darren Sharif was the current council person in that race, which was my first time ever running, even thinking about politics. I came in third to two people who have political experience. And I helped Gail in that race, and she defeated Sharif in the runoff. In 2018, it was I think about 8 of us that ran in the Central Ward, and this was her first time running. And yes, she was on the Baraka team, and it's a strong team. When you're on a team, you have finances, you have bodies, and I still fared well. I forced a runoff, so it was a runoff between me and the current councilwoman, and I lost by about 250, 300 votes. So now this election is just her and I, and there's no other people in the race. And now it's like we have to make a decision. Do we want the current council person, or do we want to try a new face that a lot of people do know, and see if he can make some changes, within our community. I think this race is I like this race, to be honest with you, because like I said, it's just her and I in the race, and people just have to make a decision. So you just have to go out and do the footwork and basically sell yourself to the people. And like I said, I'm from the Central Ward. I live in the Central Ward. I work in the Central Ward. I have a business in the Central Ward. So I've been in this ward basically all my life, and a lot of people do know me. But a lot of people are not sold on politics. So those people that are not sold on politics, I have to find a way to get them out to come out and vote on May 10th, because a lot of those people that are not sold on politics are people that I know, and I think I have to get them out. And then I have to maybe flip some of the people who were supporting some of the other candidates in the 2018, 2014 election. So I have to.
Sorry, sir, but do you expect to have Gail Cheney-Field Jenkins on your side, as she indicated where she'll be?
Well, I mean, I've had conversation with her, but we haven't, had anything like concrete.
And what was your reaction to Sharp James not getting certified to be a candidate?
I was actually rooting for Sharp, man, because personally, I like Sharp James. He was a people's mayor. Everybody liked Sharp. Sharp James could be in the community all by himself, and people would be like, "That's the mayor," and it's like he had no problem being amongst the people. And that's me. So I kind of, the community part. He was supportive of athletics in the school system. Yeah. He was supportive of, because he was an athletic person before he became into politics. So I was a little upset that Sharp didn't get on the ballot, because I really believe Sharp would have won. Even at the age 85, I watch him. He's still very knowledgeable. He still moves around. He still has life. Within being at that age, he's still able to maneuver and do different things. So I was hoping that he got on the ballot, but it didn't work out that way.
Sir, I hope that we can talk again, and I certainly hope we can talk in person. But in the meantime, is there anything you want to add to what we've talked about today, or something we didn't discuss that you feel is particularly relevant in a first interview like this?
If I could say anything, and people that are going to watch this, I'm sure you're going to send this to me so I can post it up, or I'm not sure.
Sure. How that goes. We'll post it on the website, and then I'll.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I just want people to understand that it's important, to go out and vote, because sometimes people don't vote because they don't care for either candidate. Like, it's even with the presidential race, it's like they're both going to do the same thing. Why should I vote? But I think people should come out and vote because, I'm a new face. I would be a new face in City Hall. I'm not a new face in the Central Ward, but I just think, everybody else get a chance. Why not me? Why can't I get a chance and see what I can do? I mean, I've molded thousands of kids, man. And I mean, not everybody went the right path, but I've had more successes than failures when, doing what I do, and I do it the old school way, like we came up under discipline and loyalty and respect, and that's how I live, and that's how I instill in my kids that I coach, anybody I come in contact with that come to me for advice. I think that's just needed, man. I think people don't believe anymore, and I think I can give people that hope that something will get done. And if it doesn't, and I make it in the city hall, then in 4 years, vote me out. I have no problem with it if I didn't do the job. And I'm sure 4 years is not long enough to do some of the things that need to be done. But if I didn't even implement anything, if I just sat in there for 4 years and did nothing, then hold me accountable. And I gotta accept that. But if I'm given the opportunity, I'm gonna work for the people. And in 4 years, I'm not gonna have to go knock on doors and get petitions signed, because I'm gonna know everybody in the Central Ward, and they're going to already know who I am. So I shouldn't have to go back out to reintroduce myself unless there's new developments that came upon, while this election is going on and those people weren't living here. I can introduce myself to them. But the people that's currently in the Central Ward, my goal is to reach out to all of them within those 4 years to introduce who I am. So in the next 4 years, you already know who your council person is. I'm running. So I don't have to come resell myself to you because I've done what you've asked me to do. And if I couldn't do it, I'm going to tell you I can't do it. I'm not going to make you believe that I'm doing something for you and I know it can't be done. We have to be straightforward. And I know that's not the political way they say, but that's why people are the way they are. We have to be straightforward sometimes. We have to tell the truth sometimes. I mean, people bend the truth, but you have to be truthful with people, because that's what people are looking for now, because the world is changing, man. Everybody's seeing like they're just giving up. And I want to bring back that hope in the Central Ward with the community of all ages, not just the youth.
Mr. McCray, let me ask you, given the passionate dedication to recreation and to youth recreation, if you had a choice between the Central Ward seat and succeeding Pat Council as Director of Recreation for the city, what would you do?
Probably 8 years ago, I probably would have said be the Director of Recreation. But right now, I'm happy with the position that I'm in. But Central Ward Councilman, I believe I can do more than just, like I said from the jump, I think I'm more than recreation. I think I bring value in a lot of different things. It's not just sports. That's just something that I was very good at, and it kind of kept me out of trouble, and it helped me keep others out of trouble. But I think I'm valuable in a lot of different areas, and I think Central Ward Councilman would be a very valuable position for me, to help more residents, not just the kids, because I'm doing recreation on my own now, not to a broad scope, but I'm doing it, within the realms of what I can do with the kids that I'm dealing with. But I think as a council person, I will have more connections with more people, and I think people will listen to me more because of that status of being a council person. So I think I can get more done than being a Director of Recreation.
Shawn McCray, running for Newark Central Ward Council. I want to thank you very much, sir, for your time today.
All right. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And I hope to talk to you again soon. Hopefully in person next time.
Definitely.